So let's record this. This is an exercise that you guys had to do yesterday. And so hopefully this is familiar to you now. We did a couple of things. We did VLOOKUPs. And so just a reminder of the VLOOKUP, how that works. In this cell here, we've written that formula. And how the VLOOKUP works is the first thing is the thing that we're going to try and look up in a reference table. So we're going to be looking up in this VLOOKUP command, we're going to be looking up this number 3 in the lookup table. Then the next part of the command is actually the table itself, and that's why it's sort of A2 down to C6, so that would highlight all the table data, but it doesn't highlight the headings. And then the last bit, last 2 bits, the number 3 there represents to the fact that we're going to return the thing that's in the 3rd column. The reference column is actually the 1st column, and we actually with VLOOKUP we kind of have to do that with the so we're going to count those across there, and that 3rd column is going to be the column that we're going to return the value. The false just means that we're going to get an exact result, as opposed to we could have put something in there that it's greater than or less than some number. Now, the thing that you hadn't been shown, which I'm going to show you now, is this concept of a what's the exact term that uses here for? It's a data validation. Yes, a data validation. So the thing is, what if the person put the number 6 in? And you get this kind of ugly error, and we can see by looking at the table that the only values that are acceptable are the numbers 1 through 5. And so that's not good. So we don't want to, we want to have our spreadsheets work so that it does a little bit of error handling. And so data validation will allow you to do a little bit of error handling. So in this cell, I'm going to apply data validation. So I'm sorry it doesn't have a nice menu option, which is big and easy to read. If I make this a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more obvious, but you just have to sort of recognize that symbol, I guess. And when you hover over it, you'll see that it is data validation. You've got a few things that you can do with data validation. So when you choose data validation, you need to give some instructions to it, I guess you could say. And so what would be the things here? Maybe the easiest way to do that would be to highlight a list to say that the only numbers that are good are the ones that are in a list. So we could choose that. So if I chose a list, then it'll ask where is the list. And so I could do that. So then I press on this value, and my cursor changes to this big cross, and then I just highlight where all the values that are good enough to be that are good values for this are, and I'm just going to hit enter on that. And so now I have a list, and only the values in this area here are going to be acceptable as values. They're validated there. When I do it that way, I get this really neat feature, which is I get a little drop down menu. And I hope you can see on the side there, I could choose any one of those from the drop down. When I do a list, it works really nice like that. So that's kind of cool. That's one way you could do it. Maybe we could, well, all right. The other way, yeah, let's move on, do it over here, right? So let's say we want another one. We could do this as a list. Yeah, actually, this one is better as a list than that one because it's got words in it. Let's also format this as a list of, and we'll go back and format the other one the other way in a minute. So I'm going to do another data validation on this so you can watch it if you didn't get it exactly last time. So I'm going to validate that the value in here must be one of these values. I'm going to do that is go to data validation. I'm going to choose the list, and then I'm going to go to the source, and I'm going to highlight the ones that are okay. This time I'm going across because we're doing an H lookup instead of a V lookup, right? And so there's my thing, and I get my list, and only things in the list will show up as a drop down, right? Now, is that not working? H1, yeah, okay, product 4 is at 15, yeah, it is working. So there we go. Product 2, that's 25, working perfectly. So that's one way of doing that with the data validation. Let's go back and look at question 1 and change this data validation to a different style of validation. So going to go back into my data validation. Instead of doing a list, I'm going to choose some whole numbers, and the data is going to be between. Now, the minimum value is not going to be that. It's going to be 1, and the maximum value is going to be 5. So we've got our values, and I could have just picked on those as well, but those are our values. And now when I go, I don't have the drop-down menu, so I still have to enter the data. If I try and do a 6, it's outside the range, and I get a little error message comes up. Rather than sort of messing up my results in here, I get this little error message come up saying that I'm not within the range that I should be. And so I could cancel that and put a number in which is in the range, and it works. -1 would not be in the range. So that's the thing. The only thing I hadn't really taught you, I suppose, out of that exercise. I would recommend you go back to the lab that we did yesterday. That's lab 2, and sort of update it with that. And so in those 2 questions, questions 1 and question 2, put in a data validation in there. You can use a data validation with a drop-down list. You can use a data validation with numbers. And so that's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'll actually put a new Dropbox up for you in a minute. All right, so I'm